Hello all, welcome to the round table. We're finally back. I finally made the schedule. Anyway, welcoming to the panel, Jeff Franklin and Mark the Inflay Tired. How are we doing this morning? It is still morning.
Doing pretty good. Yeah, it is.
Good. A little tired.
Barely.
All right, so today's topic for roundtable discussion is kind of a long-winded one and can kind of go everywhere and anywhere, but I figured it's more appropriate for a roundtable discussion than just a single video. So what we're going to do today is briefly talk about moments that changed the course. So we were going one way, something happens, and we end up going in another. So I'll start it off with an example. Pearl Harbor. The United States was not entering World War II. Most of the population was against entering the war. And Pearl Harbor happens. And then the declaration of war from Germany. And now all of a sudden the United States is all gung-ho and ready to go. Had that event not happened, we can't say whether the United States would have entered World War II. I mean, most historians say that eventually it would have happened anyway. But there's no guarantee on that because the feeling at home in the United States was very strong that they didn't want to go to another European war. They were dead against it. Then Pearl Harbor. And then the declaration of war. And those two events changed the United States' course. By the end of that, the United States would go from the second biggest navy to the world's largest. They would get more colonies from the British. And they would turn into one of the major superpowers of the world, eclipsing the British at the end of World War II. So that definitely changed the course because up until then, the British were still holding on. Whether they would have been able to hold on after World War II is another story, had the United States not entered World War II. But it definitely changed the course. So now, Jeff?
Well, I'm going to go a little bit different direction with this. In the 50s, you had the United States. They were trying to establish a space program of some sort. And there were two major directions that we were going. One was with the military. One was with another agency. Something happened in 1957. Russia launched Sputnik. Mm-hmm. That galvanized the United States. They put all their efforts into NASA. And within a couple months, January of 58, we launched Explorer 1. We were in space, finally. Yeah. So that changed the course of our space program. We got NASA involved heavily. We put all the backing there, and we became a major space power.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Without Sputnik, there wasn't any... Sputnik lit the fire under people's arses.
Really quick. Really quick.
Yeah. Because, that was a major... It was a major breach of security, and the United States was supposed to be number one technology-wise, and Russia kind of outshone them for a moment, and that wasn't going to be allowed to stand.
Mm-hmm. And without that, we wouldn't have gone to the moon probably when we did.
No, probably not. No, it would have been years after.
If ever. Who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Mark, your first event?
I'm going to go a little bit closer to our to modern times than the 50s. I'm going to go into the 80s and 90s with the AIDS epidemic. That completely changed how people viewed certain things, without getting into detail and not getting your channel knocked down going into it. But that, I mean, it completely changed people's point of views on abstinence and being promiscuous, and
Yeah.
it also brought to light a lot of, I mean, I don't even know how to broach it. I should have done it, should have wrote it down a little bit better, but I mean, it changed the way we thought of a lot of things and viewed
Yeah.
a lot of things, especially with go ahead and say it, human sexuality, along with how different people were viewed as well.
Yeah, and not only that, but it changed and forced the governments and the medical fields
Mm-hmm.
to tighten the blood transfusions,
Yeah.
Yes.
to bring in a whole bunch of regulations for blood transfusion. It
Mm-hmm.
changed how they did business. It changed how they, um, how they went about that. It wasn't just, well, just grab me that blood and give me your arm, and it was, they had to screen it, they had
Yep.
to check it, they had to put these things in place, and before that, there, it wasn't as regulated as it is now, especially
Mm-hmm.
now. But yeah, that definitely changed the course, because you know before that, I mean, they didn't really, I mean, they screened, but they didn't screen heavy.
Yeah.
And then once that came into effect, then yeah, they had to change all their protocols for that.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it when Arthur Ashe came down with it, that's when the screenings got stronger with his case of getting, because of a blood
I think
transfusion.
so.
I think that's where that started at.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, I mean, it put a dead stop to the world, and how that was definitely dealt with.
Yeah. Um, Another one that I'll throw out there, that it didn't really change major courses, but it did allow airplanes to get a leg up. And that was when the Hindenburg went up. When the Hindenburg went up in flames, airships were looked at as unsafe
It's true.
until, I mean, nowadays, I mean, the undercurrent, yeah, those who were in the know knew that, helium was a thing, but it was only available in the United States. So airships in Europe were steered away from after the Hindenburg. So that changed things a little bit. Not drastically, but a little bit. Jeff? We'll just keep going around in circles.
We'll see how long we can go.
Yeah. Oh, I can go all day.
Well, I'm sure you could, but I don't know if I can. Well, another one is actually Microsoft. Microsoft is big in bringing the internet to the masses and computers to the masses. They didn't invent the graphical user interface, but they popularized it. They made it available for everyone. They're the ones that brought it to the people at home. And I think that's when the internet took off, is when Microsoft developed Windows, especially with Windows 95 coming out.
Yeah, 95 was
and
big.
that's 95 was big, and it allowed people at home to easily use a computer and get onto the internet. And that's why we're here right now. We're talking here on this roundtable, because we can now be on our home computer, and with a camera and the internet, we can talk and have discussions, and it just revolutionized the world.
Yeah, it did. I remember when 95 came out, it was the big thing. It was and me being a young, almost teenager, I learned everything I could about it. I used to tutor the darn program at the resource center, but it was the big thing. It was, if your business wasn't running on 95, you were looked as archaic.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't running on 95, you know, and you were still running DOS, you were looked at kind of, oh well, you're kind of low tech, aren't you? It definitely changed a lot. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Mark?
Going back to World War II, Hiroshima and the detonation of the first nuclear bomb and Nagasaki the second.
Yeah.
That was one of the big. I would say that might be the ultimate thing in the 20. Well, it would in any century that directly had an effect that changed the course of history because it made nuclear energy available and it also made it weaponized it and made it to where instantly the planet could be wiped out if one person decided to do it.
Yeah.
As time went on, but not with the bombs themselves, but as time went on into the 60s and especially into the late 50s, early 60s, when missiles were starting to become more and more of a thing to put warheads on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the nukes, nuclear power is one thing. Nuclear weaponization is another.
Mm-hmm.
When the bombs were dropped, it changed the power struggle. It gave the allies, if you will, the trump card.
Mm-hmm.
They had the trump card. It was okay. We don't need to send tanks. We need to send one plane. We send one plane. We wipe you out. Up until Russia got the bomb, and then it was mutually assured destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it was we have the trump card. We don't need to send tanks. We need to send one plane. And that changed the power struggle majorly at the end of World War II. It threw all of the bargaining power behind the United States because they had the bomb. And Russia didn't.
Yeah.
They were close, but they didn't. But yeah, that definitely changed, especially people's outlook too. And it also changed the war. I mean, if you think about it, if the nukes don't come in at 45, the amount of bloodshed that would have taken place. We look back now and go, oh my goodness, those two bombs killed, hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, they did. But pause for a second. Because let's say they don't drop the nukes. Let's say they're further behind in their research than they historically were. And the bombs aren't ready till 47, 48. That means land invasion of Japan. Not only from the Allies, but from Russia. The amount the amount of men and women that would have been killed and civilians in a land invasion of Japan would have blown away those numbers astronomically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but the bombs, in a way, as bad as it is to say, saved lives.
Yeah.
Without the bombs, it means land invasion.
Yeah.
And the death tolls, I'm not even going to quote a number because there's so many estimates now. It would have been astronomical.
And if you look at the case too, if it would have been a land invasion, what made the United States or at least North America safe would also hinder them because now they're the furthest away from the action, having to go there instead of in Japan's reversal coming here.
Well, it's not only that, but Stalin would have been able to do a land grab
Yeah.
through China.
That's true.
And it would have changed a lot. Like, China would have been communist, but it wouldn't have been China communism. It would have been Russia communism. They would have been part of Russia historically. At least it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's 100%, but it is a possibility. Had the bombs not been dropped, because Russia is that's where their armies would be coming in to attack Japan. So it's very possible that without the nuclear bombs, China would have been under Russia rule after World War II. Because we all know how good Stalin was with pulling back his armies after the war. East Berlin. Just saying. So yeah, that definitely changed the course. It also started a weapons race. It was the start, the first shot fired in a weapons race between Russia and the United States that would go until about the 90s, when Russia would go bankrupt. But it was the first shot fired in the Cold War, if you think about it. Yeah. And for me, I think I'll go, we'll leave war for a minute and we'll go Titanic. Up until the Titanic, we thought that we were pretty technologically advanced. We were at the top of our game. Titanic sinks, and all of a sudden, the way we build ocean liners has changed. We look more towards safety. The safety protocols are all overhauled. Without the Titanic, those things don't happen. Without the Titanic, we don't change how many lifeboats are on an ocean liner. We don't change how ships are built to, ensure the safety of the passengers. A lot changed after the Titanic. We look back now and we go, it's such a tragedy, and lifeboats, but it wasn't just lifeboats. It was a lot of other things that changed after the Titanic. And the Titanic is important, I think, because it also showed, it reminded us that we're human. We started getting a little too cocky. And if you just look at how the Titanic was built, the unsinkable ship, human arrogance. It reminded us that we're human, and nothing we make is perfect, and anything we make can be destroyed simply. So the Titanic going down. Just look at her sister ship, the Britannic, or the Olympic. A lot of changes were made to them because of the Titanic. Bulkheads were raised. The Britannic got a double hull, complete double hull. The Olympic got a half double hull added to it after the Titanic went down. And these are all things that were changed because of the Titanic. Without the Titanic going down when it did and how it did, these things wouldn't have changed. The other things that changed were, how you respond to an emergency on the oceans, and stuff like that. So I'd say the Titanic was, a major change, oceanology-wise. Jeff?
Well, I want to go with automobiles, mass production of automobiles. It changed a lot of things, how people got around, freedom. It built up the infrastructure of roads, interstates, that sort of thing. We didn't have those types of things before automobiles. So I think that was a big point in history when people were able to start buying cars in mass. And it just gave people freedom and be able to go long distances without, relying on trains or boats. They could do it or horses. They can do it on their own and do it quickly. And that developed jobs because roads had to be developed. Roads to develop
Gas
to
station.
handle all the transportations. Gas stations is another thing.
Yep.
So just big industry, big a lot of it boosted the economy in many ways.
Yes. And it gave the average family the advantage of being able to travel.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mark?
Well, stepping away from tragedies like Jeff just did with the automobile, I would say satellites, navigational satellites,
Yes.
and
Oh yeah.
because I mean, adding to the what we said, what was brought up about Microsoft, without the satellites, the communications wouldn't be there. We wouldn't have the. I mean, without all of that, there would be no modern convenience communications wise.
Yeah,
We would
absolutely.
we would still be doing things by landline, or even not even by that, maybe even not even that far. But I mean, it's as far as with navigational satellites as well, we've gone from, which is can be good and bad in a way, so kind of not really a tragedy, but you've gone from having to being using a map, which people still need to learn how to do, how to read one, but to using a
Yes.
system that will guide you directly to your location and tell you when you're there and give you
Yeah,
the time
and not
readouts
only
and
that, but
everything.
I mean, if you look at it on the grand scale, I mean, the Titanic would have never happened
True, 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 true.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
modern satellites. I mean, tragedies like that do happen because reasons. Um, but
Mostly being human.
yes, but it definitely revolutionized, you know, worldwide travel, worldwide shipping, etc., and so forth.
Hmm.
Um, it definitely revolutionized and changed the way we did things
Yeah.
for sure.
Although I
All
got to
right.
say, GPS almost drove me off a cliff one time.
Well, we didn't
Well,
say
that
it
would have
was
been a
perfect.
tragedy.
Gone to an interstate, it told me there was an on ramp, and it was just going off a cliff. There was no on ramp.
Did you get the
So
Kurogan GPS?
probably,
I'm just curious.
probably.
All right, so I think we'll go one more around the table, and then we'll get out of here. So for me, I think one that I'll mention is, and I'll stay away from I think wars for now, but really um, just Canada and World War One, and more importantly, and more specifically, um, I guess it is a tragedy, but at the same time, it's a major. Any Canadian that knows their history, um, Canada really became of age during the Battle of. Oh goodness gracious, my brain just froze. Um, oh yeah, now I forget the name of the place in France. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. That's not good at all. Anyway, I'll just put it this way: during World War One, Canada became of age.
Vimy Ridge,
Vimy
Vimy
Ridge.
Ridge,
Yeah, there we
Vimy
go.
Ridge.
Yeah, my brain just went blank. I'm sorry about that, folks.
Mine went
Um,
blank too. I had to look it up.
I have moments like that lately. Um, but Vimy Ridge, up until then, Canada was kind of Britain's little brother for the most part. We were there because our big brother said we had to be, kind of thing. Um, Vimy Ridge really defined us. The Somme kind of did, but Vimy was when we stood apart. Um, it was the first real Canadian-led mission in World War One. The Canadians planned it, the Canadians did it, and they accomplished their mission, which was to take Vimy Ridge, which had been tried. Yeah, they tried to take it twice before, but the Canadians went in and did it. And it was our baptism by fire. And on the world stage, Canada was looked at a little differently after that. We started getting a little bit more pull, as it were. People started listening. Some of the things we did in Vimy Ridge were never done. And until we did it and proved it, a lot of the battle tactics we used in Vimy would be how they would fight the war going forward, such as underground mining and blowing up the positions before getting there. A rolling barrage wasn't done. The emphasis on accurate cannon fire, your big guns. Don't just blast away. Learn where your enemy's guns are. Take those guns out. Lessons that were learned from the Somme. But yeah, it's when Canada came to age. And I'm sorry I blanked there for a second.
No, that's okay.
Jeff, your turn.
Well, I'll go back all the way to the 1700s, founding of the United States, the American Revolution. If that hadn't have happened, we wouldn't have the United States being a major power in right now or in the 1900s after World War II. Who would have filled that blank, if the United States hadn't been here? So that war, that splitting off from England, caused a huge amount of things to happen in the last 240 years, 50 years. So without that, who knows where we would be? That's just a major point in history.
Yeah. Mark?
And seeing that nobody took it, I'm going to take it. 9/11. Well, you can't talk about tragedies without that.
Yes.
Because a world changing event. Because that stopped everybody in their tracks and questioned the security of their countries, along with who was coming in and who was coming out.
Yes. Yeah, there were a lot of ramifications to 9/11 that we're still feeling today.
Oh, and we'll continue to feel for
many years.
Probably in our lifetime, we'll continue to feel. I don't think it'll ever change.
No. But yeah, definitely 9/11 was a big one. It was. It had almost the same feeling as Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
It was a major shock. We in the West, by we in the West, I mean Canada and the United States. When we think wars, we think of wars other places. They don't happen here. They don't happen on our soil. We're always sending troops somewhere else. So both Pearl and 9/11 were attacks on our soil. Well, your soil, to be exact. And that just doesn't happen, right? We're always having wars in the Middle East, in Europe, in, other places, not here. And for it to come home really kind of woke us up a little bit, and maybe push certain buttons that, some were good, some were bad. You can argue on either side. But needless to say, it changed the way we looked at things, the way we dealt with things. It changed the air traffic control. It changed air transportation. So things that we had gotten laxed on, we definitely changed that.
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering if we're starting to forget.
It's the sad part.
Yeah.
It becomes, well, that happened then. This is now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it doesn't take long. It really doesn't.
Nope.
It doesn't take long for that mentality to sink in. Well, that was then. This is now. It could be 5 years, and people will go, "Well, that was then. This is now." Well, it was only 5 years ago. Yeah, but this is now. We know better now. Oh, really? Okay.
Do we?
And then you make the same damn mistake right away.
Yeah.
But so what I'll do is I'll go around the table, and if anybody wants to promote stuff, they can. So I'll start with Jeff.
Well, I'm on another show here on YouTube. It's called A Question of Trek. If you'd like to check us out, we're Star Trek quiz show. If you like quiz shows like Star Trek, check us out Sundays, 4:30 Eastern.
Okay. And Mark.
Tomorrow I will be joining Mary's Game Room and one of her new show as color commentary, and of course I have a brain fart, forget what she called it. But tomorrow at 7:30, I will be there. I will be there and to help her out and to have some fun watching her play a game by her solo game.
Awesome.
Solo with commentary. That's what it was, if I'm not mistaken. Solo with commentary.
Awesome. Although that would have been, yeah. Also, Saturday, January the 22nd, is a very special stream here on History with R&R at 4:05 because I'm me. It'll be 4:05 Central Time. We will be gathering myself, Jeff, Mrs. Doom, and anyone else. I've yet to start the Twitter group, but do get in touch with me if you want to join the panel. It'll be a year since my late co-host passed away, Richard Simpson. It'll be exactly a year on Saturday. And we're going to get together. We're going to support his wife through this day. It's not going to be hard. It's not going to be easy for her. So I'm hoping that we can cheer her up, make her smile, make her laugh. And in the same process, remember her brother who left us last year. And I'm can't say I'm looking forward to the stream, but I'm hoping that this will be good for Paula. And yeah, that's what I've got going. And of course, karaoke that night will be dedicated to Doom as well. My brother is missed, and this will be an opportunity to show that. So anyone is welcome to that stream. Do let me know if you want on the panel. Just makes it easier. I can just put the link in one spot. And as for anything else, we'll have our live stream the following Monday. I believe Loki's Mornings of Mischief will be on.
Yes.
And that'll be interesting.
11 a.m. Central, 11:05.
Yeah, 11:05 Central. And then we'll have Mr. CCTV next Friday. So thank you all. And until next time, thank you and good night.